Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Tim Modise Connection. And it comes to you from Shaguma Garden Restaurant. And it's made possible by One Connect, our dear friends at One Connect IT company. And of course, we are live on Vision View TV as well, before a live audience here at Shaguma. And I'm pleased that a good friend of mine, Khandani Msibi, the CEO of NUMSA Investments and CEO of 360 GSG, agreed to be my guest here and share with me his experience, the good part of how they go about investing in businesses, who their partners are, the areas that are of interest to them. But he's also been in the news for, one could say, the wrong reasons, but you'll disagree with me. You'll prove it differently. Somebody might say, yeah, but why are you guys always in the media being taken to court or arguing with the authorities? What exactly is the story? And the story that I'm referring here to is the 360 Life story, the insurance company, and the prudential authorities saying that they have particular issues with it. So I think let's start right there and deal with it before we move into other areas of your operations. Khandani Msibi, a pleasure here. You are in the company of friends.
Yes.
And these are robust people. They will ask questions the way they ask them. But that's the way we get to share information and grow together, isn't it?
Tim, thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to this wonderful place. I must say I'm very impressed by the setup and also your friends, the audience that are here. I think it's a kind of things that we need as black people. We need to have more conversations about business, and we need we are the people that I need, and therefore I'm really impressed with what you've done here. It's unique, it's different, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. And let me also add that in a way, you know, the concept to have something like this comes from the very audience, you know, because when we meet, we talk, and we express our frustrations, and then we thought maybe we should have focused conversations once in a while so that we can learn from each other, and who knows, build networks that way. So I'm pleased that you agreed to be here.
Thank you.
So I want to deal with that first point first of what exactly happened between yourselves as 360 Life and the prudential authorities. Really.
I think let me start by maybe describing the group. I joined the NUMSA Investment Company when it was in liquidation in 2008, right?
Yeah.
In the Cape High Court, and we managed to take it out. And the only meaningful asset in there was Duff's Group, which is a funeral undertaker.
Sure.
And our view as management was that, the funeral business is a terminal business, and we rather work with you and improve your life. And that's when we bought life insurance, 360 Life. When we bought it, it was doing about 100 million rands revenue per annum. It's now doing around 600 million rands. And then we bought 360 Health, which administers a Sizwe medical fund. It's now Sizwe HOSMED medical scheme. Right? It's quite a big scheme. It's in the top 10 of the country. Excuse me, top 10 of the country's medical schemes. And we bought SALT, which is a retirement fund administration business. It's the biggest privately owned retirement fund administration business. So the idea there was to move with the consumers, you know, off the grave into life, right? Because we're saying that if I bury you, Tim, that's the last time I made money from you. But I'd rather insure you, give you medical aid, and make sure you live longer, and manage your retirement fund, and we both grow in this relationship. And in the event that you die, we'll bury you. But for us, funeral services and cremation, we saw that as the last service we should offer to you. And in driving this vision of improving lives and improving livelihood, we wanted to invest in the hospitals and bring low-cost hospital services, right? And that's a part of our strategy that actually failed, right? And we introduced to biotech by a gentleman called Martin Magwaza, and we invested in biotech. That became an area in which we focused our investment and my attention as the group CEO. Now, over the past 2.5 to 3 years, I kind of extricated myself out of financial services business, right, and focus on biotech. And the reason for that was that whilst you can grow the biotech, the financial services business, it is not scalable. In other words, you can't jump from we're doing about 1.3 billion rands revenue now. You can't jump from 1 billion to 10 billion out of financial services. But with the biotech, you can. We invested in a number of things like COVID vaccines. You'll see in the next couple of months that you will announce the first clinical study of a preclinical study of a South African formulated COVID vaccines, about 3 of them that we're working on. COVID therapeutics, malaria. There's not been any investment in malaria over many, many years, right? And to think that the things like TB remain the biggest killers in South Africa, this day and age, for us, when we got to play in that space, we focus our investment in those areas that we should find new treatment for TB, we should find new treatment for malaria, we should find a novel treatment for menstrual health. So there's a lot of things that we're doing there. Yeah? And COVID happened, 2019, 2020 for us. The first wave was not so bad. Right? The second wave hit the insurance business very badly. Right? Now in insurance, you have 2 measures of solvency, and there's a difference between solvency and liquidity. Solvency from an insurance point of view is it's actually a forward-looking measure, whereby they say in the next 2 to 3 years, will you be able to meet the liabilities that you have towards the policy holders, right? Whereas liquidity talks about today, right? So solvency is about what you can actually deliver into the future. Now, there's a measure of 2 measures of solvency, which is a minimum capital requirement, MCR, and a solvency capital requirement, SCR, that are almost like stacked up within the insurance business. That you have the first layer, which is the SCR, and then the next layer, which is the MCR. Now, once you breach the SCR, you still have the protection of the MCR. Right? And the second wave of COVID, I think it was about December, September, October. It affected most insurance companies, in that most insurance companies breached the SCR, right? And the regulator sent out a notification to say, if you breached the SCR, we understand it's COVID, but don't breach the MCR, right? And when the new year turned from 2020 to 2021, we got hit so badly that we breached the MCR, right? Which meant that we were not complying with our license requirements. But the reality of the matter is that this was driven by COVID, right? Now, when it comes to the reserving for both SCR and MCR, the insurance industry, or the theory of insurance, works on it says that you must reserve using MCR and SCR for a once in a 200 years event. Right? So it assumes that there will be one adverse event that will hit you. Right? But that adverse event is expected to happen once every 2 years, and is also expected in 200 years. Yeah. And is also expected to last for not more than 3 months. Now, we've had COVID for over 19 months, which actually meant that we're operating in an environment that is not typical. Right? So we got hit And sadly, at that time, we had managers who were involved in misconduct. They stole from us, and we dismissed them. Interestingly, the guy was a CEO. We recruited him from the Reserve Bank, and we terminated his service. And then I came back to act as a CEO. We put together a new team. The idea was that by March this year, I would step down as the acting CEO. But we built up a nice team, and interestingly, we resolved at that time that we will put together a team of black women only, and we did. I mean, the CFO is a black woman, the COO is a black woman, marketing, everybody. It's a very interesting team of young black women that are now running this insurance business. So when we got hit by COVID, we had to decide as a board whether to save the insurance company. Because, I mean, it's like, for me, what COVID did to this business, the way I characterize it to some people, is like, I imagine myself like a man sitting on a rock watching his house bent down to the ground. There's nothing you can do. I mean, there's really nothing that anybody could do about COVID. I mean, they're saying destroyed a number of sectors, the airline industry, tourism, the guys who are running the property sector, in particular the office accommodation, they've really seen flames. So we're not alone, but we happen, and also even in the insurance sector, we're not alone, right? And we then said we will save the insurance business, right? That's the resolution of the board. Let's save the insurance business. But in order to save the insurance business, we decided to sell one of the companies, which is a Salt Employee Benefits, right? Now, I'll take you back about the story of Salt, because it plays itself into where we are with the regulator. And mind you, at the time, I'm the acting CEO of the insurance business. I'm engaging with the regulator on a continuous basis. And when we bought Salt, which is about 2.5 years ago, I went to the regulator, which is FS. It was the FSB then, FSCA today, right? And I said, we want to buy Salt, which is a retirement fund administration business. We want to know if there are things that we should know about Salt that should inform us on whether we should continue with the transaction or not. You know, that has to do with the regulator. Because the last thing you want is to buy a business that has a problem with the regulator, right? And they said to us, there are issues, but we like the fact that you want to buy. Come back to us after 2 weeks. We came back after 2 weeks, and then they said, no, we like the idea that you'll buy. We've decided not to put the fund under curatorship. We will appoint a statutory managers in the fund, right? And then they approve the transaction, because for you to buy a regulated entity, you need the approval of the regulator to make an acquisition. And when we decided to sell Salt in order to recapitalize 360 Life, I went back to the regulator, right? And I said, and it was a different person. When I went there in the past, it was a Dube Chidi who was retired. Now it was Aloni Makubela. I think he was acting commissioner then in this transition. I met with him and a lady, Collier Beitenbach, who are responsible for the retirement fund. Right? And I said to them, look, I have a problem in that my insurance company is insolvent. I'm here to inform you that we're going to sell Salt in order to recapitalize the insurance company. Right? And they gave me a somber story about how this is a reversing transformation in the industry and so forth. And my view was that, look, I don't have an option. I have to sell. Right? And they gave me a reluctant thumbs up. And just before we could do the transaction, the FSCA, the very same people that I went to inform that I'm selling Salt in order to recapitalize, they attacked Salt over the issues that they informed me about
that were in existence prior to...
Prior, which they said
Yeah.
are kind of resolved,
Yeah.
right? And then I call these guys and say, but what's happening? And we have all sorts of meetings. But unfortunately, the investors who were going to buy salt have run for the hills. So my transaction collapsed, right? On the 6th of December, after the collapse of the salt transaction, I called Kube Naiju, right?
At the Reserve Bank.
The Reserve Bank. He was the PA, the
Prudential Authority. Yeah.
I think he's finishing off today. I think tomorrow we have a new Prudential Authority that is taking over. And I called him and I say, Governor, my plan A has collapsed. I want to activate my plan B, right? And he says, no, send me a letter tomorrow, the next day, and tell me what your plan B is, and tell me what your actuaries say about the plan B. So there was a report of the actuaries that actually say what is the impact of plan B on our solvency, right? We'd already checked with the actuary. This works. We had about 180 million rands worth of real estate in Doves. 50 million of it is encumbered, 130 is unencumbered, and we decided to put this 130 inside the insurance company. And I mean, as you know, that for insurance companies, for its solvency, you need to have a balance of liquid and illiquid assets, right? And because we haven't had really much of property in the portfolio, I mean, Thrissur Life has over 4 million rands worth of near cash assets, right? And then an additional 130 million rands worth of real estate was within the allowable non-liquid asset allowance. Yeah, so it works, and in terms of the calculations, to give us an MCR of 1.44, which means that we will be 40% ahead of the minimum requirement. We sent this to him on the 7th, and we learned later that on the 8th they went into a committee and decided that they want to put us under curatorship over solvency. So they ignored our capitalization strategy. In fact, we received a letter a week later that says the PA notes your capitalization strategy. Right? So on the 23rd of December, I get a call that the PA wants to meet with the chairman of the board, management, and myself. I have to be there. And I go there, and they tell us that they have obtained ex parte, they've obtained curatorship order against us, ex parte. And ex parte means that the judge, you get judged without you knowing that you're actually in court. Actually, it's a top secret. The fact that they are meeting the judge is a secret. I mean, we saw in their affidavit that they saw their staff members to secrecy about going to court. So they went there, got the judgment. They tell us about the judgment, and what happens in that you are divested of all the powers, both management and the board. They put a curator who's gonna now take over the responsibility of the board and the responsibility of management. I was very annoyed with these guys for a simple reason that we've been the most transparent with them. We never hear anything from them. I'm the governor of the Reserve Bank, the SAGE, someone that we talk to. I don't think when you run a business like we do, we run a group of companies, we would want to be unreasonable with the PA. But I think they were unreasonable.
Let me interrupt you there for a moment, and then we'll continue with the story. I suppose, members of the audience here listening would say, but why would Khandani Msibi want a special arrangement for his company, you know, a different dispensation. In other words, what happens typically with insurance companies that go through similar challenges as you described? How would they be managed? What is the typical way of managing that situation?
They use the ex parte, yeah? Because ex parte is one narrative. You can't defend yourself. Yeah? We were not insolvent because we had provided capitalization. Yeah? If they went to court and said Msibi has provided capitalization, we have assessed it, we have asked the actuaries, and the actuaries say it doesn't work. Yeah? That's not what they did.
So I have my fellow black brother here.
Yeah, you know, I'm keeping quiet because it's almost like you say,
The story
but continue.
The story
Continue.
I think if I have Khandani here, allow me to say anything that I can say.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
He's my black brother. He understands. He's a BCM young chap. So no. What is the state of development of vaccines against COVID? 1. 2. In view of the fact that research is critical to the development of new vaccines. 2. In view of the fact that there's climate change, which will have considerable knock-on effect on health, either of livestock and of people, which requires of us to develop new vaccines and medicinal development of actually tablets or whatever the case may be, in terms of ensuring that the health of this nation is intact and the health sovereignty of this country is intact.
Absolutely.
What is your position as my black blood brother? Brother Tim, allow me to actually cut to the chase.
Yeah, go
as my black blood brother, that level of investment that we need to make as a nation, the money is in our hands. We are the majority. In actual fact, we even get 350 these days. We can put 15 rands collectively, all of us that are getting 350, to actually invest in your fund to develop new vaccines that will actually find practical solutions to this economy. The other conversation, we'll have it on with Pratim, tea or wine or whatever the case may be.
That's right.
Sure.
No, but good. Conversations go. They're very provocative for us to think some more. Go ahead.
Professor is referring to my Twitter engagement, Maralo, where he was bemoaning the amount of money that is available to institutions. And at the end of the day, this country is capable. Even though we don't have the kind of money that Americans have, we are capable. Yeah? We took a bet. If you look at my pinned tweet, that in December we will revisit this conversation. It's because at that stage I couldn't disclose that we're actually investing in a COVID vaccine, which I thought by December will be able to go public. Right? And I've had a good excuse with the 360 Live curatorship, so I'm not talking much about this. And Touchwood, Marala has not come back and say, what were you saying? So don't awaken him to that. But we have developed 3 vaccine products. In fact, we developed platforms. And these are 3 different technologies, vaccine technologies. I think you're going to have to bear with us that we'll talk about this when the time is right.
Sure.
But suffice to say, I know for a fact that this country is capable of developing vaccines. We have gone with a scientific institution that said we can do it, and we put the money on the table and said do it, and they've done it. They've done it with 3 different technologies, and we're about to do with one of the vaccine. We've done immunogenicity studies in Australia, and the results are fantastic, and we're efficacy studies. Right? Fortunately, we do have one institution in South Africa that has a license to actually handle a live virus for efficacy study purposes. So the study will be done in South Africa. So, Professor, give me 3 to 6 months, and I'll be able to tell this country that we've invested in a vaccine candidate or vaccine candidates, and they are successful. I think. Thank you.
All right, Tabang, I would like you to be on standby because we are just about to wrap the conversation this evening. I hope you are around. One Tabang, if you can find the other Tabang, and then keep him on standby there. As I'm asking for your final comments now, as you can hear from the type of questions that were raised here, there are a lot of people who've got their questions, of course, but ultimately, it's the sharing of ideas, and so it goes, that will help us move forward as a people. What do you think is going on in South Africa, and how are we going to make progress at the end of the day? Because, to go around in circles complaining, that is something that we are so used to in recent times. But will things ever get better? And if so, what is it going to take?
I think, Tim, there's not much going on in the country, sadly. If you have 12 million unemployed people, and let's go back to black people in South Africa. I mean, we are new into the Western way of living. And by Western way of living is where, for you to feed your family, you have to work for someone. Right? I think we're less than 100 years into full steam into this type of living. And you look at Europe, they've been playing this game for many centuries, and they've perfected it. And that is why unemployment of 4% is a crisis for them. We're sitting with unemployment that is close to 40%. We have not yet registered that it's a crisis, because when you have a crisis, you must have an emergency response. That's how you respond to a crisis. So we don't have an emergency response because it kind of has not registered that we are in a crisis. And I have a fear, Tim, that I hope does not get realized. When I think it's Thabo Mbeki who came with the social grants.
Yeah.
When social grants were first introduced, they bought us time. And you do these kinds of things as a stopgap and not as a solution. But instead of viewing them as a stopgap and then we fix the underlying problem of unemployment, we haven't done that. Instead, we've increased the social grants, and now we're even giving the 350, which means that we're forever expanding at the band aid. Now, there's a time where you can't have the whole body on the band aid. And I think we're approaching that. We need a situation where in every province, there's at least 30 to 50 billion rands worth of projects that are taking place annually, if we are serious. Because 12 million people that are unemployed, we need to create at least 3 million direct jobs, right? And instead of us increasing those that levels of employment, we're actually increasing unemployment. The state is retrenching, private sector is retrenching, SOEs are retrenching. But the political speak is that we want to create employment. There's just no alignment. But my fear is that we're going to reach a point that I call the social grant irrelevance point. Because you have a social grant that is increasing at 4% per annum. But your food inflation is 12 to 15% per annum, which means that your food price escalation is rapidly eating up into the social grant to a point where the social grant becomes irrelevant. Now, that problem that Thabo was resolving when he introduced social grants will be with us.
Yes.
So what we are doing, we're not solving the problem, we are delaying the eventual revolution. In that we're giving out social grants, but you're not solving the problem. And we're putting our hands in the sand. You can begin to hear, in particular, why people talk about the risk. I mean, Bell Equipment says that it is leaving the country because they can see the risk into the future. Now, anybody who understands revolutions, revolutions are about food. It's about basic things. And we are pushing our people to a point where, I always say that there's no man who's going to rob you and kill you because he's unemployed. They'll rob you and kill you because they're starving. The guy who'll rob you, and I always say that you don't even get the criminals when they come and break into your house. The professional ones, they'll take a music system, the electronics. The guy who takes electronics won't take a car. And the guy who takes a car won't take electronics. Those are the guys that are sophisticated criminals. But the guy that comes and shoots you and your children has reached the animal stage. And that comes about as a result of the trauma society has put them through, where a man has to watch his children starve. When he watches children starve, he doesn't care about your children. And I think we're breeding that a lot.
So, you are pessimistic, so to speak, as we understand.
I think, Tim, when I said we should be having 30 billion rands or so projects in every province in order to deal, we can. I mean, this country, one of the things that we spoke about the banks, the state always talks about they want to create a state bank, and they want to take the post office and make the state bank out of it. I said, but nonsense. These guys are sitting with 2 trillion rands in the GPF. 2 trillion rands. And what is the market cap of a net bank? It's 120 billion rands, which means net bank is 5% of the money they have. So if they want to own a state bank, they can go buy a net bank tomorrow. Upsize by 165 billion rands. So we don't have politicians who have the will to use what they have. The retirement funds in South Africa, where black trustees sit, they're in excess of 4 trillion rands. We're just not doing things. In fact, in the past 3 years, we have increased offshore investment for our retirement funds from 25%, I think, to about 40%, if I'm not mistaken. But it's been going up. We're moving money out of the country instead of leveraging that money here. The state can own a bank if it wants to. It can go buy that bank tomorrow if they want to. But they're not.
So much to think about, and I appreciate that you came to spend time with us. Ladies and gentlemen, I think you found this conversation very useful. You did? Well, thank you very much to Khandani Msibi, the CEO of NUMSA Investments and acting CEO of 360 GSG. Thanks for sharing with us your insights. We appreciate. Now, Thabang, let me also thank you. And maybe before you say thanks, thank my friends at One Connect for making this possible for us, and our friends at Vision View TV for producing the entire event and broadcasting it live on their app. Please check them out. We were live on Vision View TV, as it were, and they are doing their part. They employ over 100 young people as a production company with more than 8 outside broadcast vans. So, a self-started group, and they seem to be going places, and I appreciate that we are able to work together. And of course, our dear friend, Thabang, who's hosting us here at Shaguma. The last word will go to you. Thank you very much, but let's hear from you.
Good evening, everyone. Let me first of all say thank you very much for One Connect, Vision View TV, Tate Tim Modise, for making all of this possible. When we started to dream that let's not only drink, let's drink and learn and grow, this is what we meant. We hope this is going to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. Second, I'm very thankful for the staff that we work with here. Without them, all of these things would not be possible. Through it all, we all stand together. Lastly, thank you so much, Shakuma patrons, because without you, we don't exist. We are here because of you. Greatest thanks to all of you. Thank you and thank you and thank you.